Hey y'all, welcome to Trailer Tales. Welcome back to Trailer Tales. I am your host, Abby Maginnis, and I'm here today with Natalie Gaswin. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and we are here at, hold on, got a vehicle going by. We are here at Fort Robinson in western Nebraska. We've got the buttes behind us and we're standing in one of the lodges. A very, very neat property. If you're ever in western Nebraska, come check it out. But we're here today to talk to Natalie, and I actually met her in a coffee shop. Last week I stopped in to get coffee and she was sitting there writing intently in this huge book. And I just had to know, me being me, if you're writing a novel. And it turns out I had to ask her, and she was writing poetry, which just blew my mind, because what in our generation is just sitting around in a coffee shop writing poetry? So I wanted to ask her what it was about, and it was the Western life. She was writing about the Western way of life from a woman's point of view. It's a busy place today. So she was writing about the Western point of view from a women's perspective, which I thought was really, really neat. And we got to talking, and she just started telling me about that she was actually published in a book. And what is this book called, Natalie?
It's called Facing West. It's volume 2, and it's The Voices of Western Women.
The Voices of Western Women. What a neat book. I haven't actually read it yet, but she got me a copy, which I'm really excited to start reading. We are calving now, so what better than to have a new book to read. But what page are you on, Natalie?
Well, I actually have 3 poems in here, and they are on pages 234, 99, and 64.
So what got you interested in writing poetry?
I actually didn't like poetry until freshman year of college, and then I was in this generals class, and they had a guest speaker, and he was a poet, and he was reading poetry, and I was so confused, and then he started pulling it all apart, and I thought it was so cool. And so I kind of got into poetry then.
So you're going to college at CSC, Chavez?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
And your degree is in
range management. Minor in creative writing.
Wow. And you are a rancher's daughter and a rancher in your own right, correct?
I don't have any cows right now, but I have ran yearlings. But yes, I grew up on a ranch, and my parents ranch.
Cool. Which is just amazing. So what kind of poetry are we going to hear today?
It's Western poetry. I think it's more ranch related. It's not super traditional cowboy, but it kind of just has stories that I think occur in the West.
So is it a rhyming? Does it have a rhythm? Is it?
No, it's all free verse.
Free verse.
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's hear a poem from Natalie.
Okay. This is called The Song of the Spurs, and I actually wrote it while I was sitting in a Western literature class, and we never once even mentioned the great cowboy poets. So I thought that was crazy. And I was texting my brother, and I seen these pictures of these Spurs online, and I was like, send them to him, because we kind of like to talk about ranch and tax stuff. And he goes, oh, if only those could talk. And I was like, oh, I need to write a poem about this. So this is the story of the Spurs, so it's called The Song of the Spurs. We were crafted in the booming and festive streets of Chihuahua in 1864. The hands that carved fine pieces of silver on us and carefully shaped our rowels were once the best rope-swinging hands in all of Mexico. That all ended when a wild cow pulled the vaquero's horse over and shattered his leg. Now he sits in his shop, his crippled leg propped on the chair, crafting works of art with the same hands, just as he crafted us. A horse trainer bought us, most of his summer wages we cost. He tied us together with a bright red bow, and a smile grew under his long black mustache as he spoke of our beauty. The room was full as a grand fiesta took place. We were the last gift open for the trainer's son. He laughed out loud when we rang and sang, and desert rays bounced off our silver. Our rowels never once scraped horsehide, not when the young horseman used us, but he took to gambling, a losing bet he placed on us. Our new master was a gringo from Texas. He lived in the dance halls, and much to our shame, rolled us against horsehide till we were soaked in crimson. One dreadful night, the gringo's shaky hands left streaks of deep scarlet on our straps. The dripping liquid did not smell of horse nor cow blood, but trembled in a way that reminded us of the voice of God calling out Cain of his sin. Soon we found ourselves dug into a poor roadside for hours. Our song was sharp and sour. For days men followed with the cracking of guns. That tune overpowered our sorrowful song. We headed north, so far north, that we found ourselves no longer in our desert home. The gringo sold us to a cowhand. Sold for half our worth. Sold for a bottle of cheap whiskey. The cowhand strapped us to his boots, and we followed the longhorns even farther north. Our gleaming silver was dull with dust. We found ourselves buried and sawed and covered in mud. Still, our song rang crisp on cool, icy mornings. We do believe we brought the cowhand's joy on those bitter, bone-aching mornings. Mud, ice, and dust changed us. Summer sunlight no longer reflected off of us. One day, the cowhand, he shined us up, took the time to polish our silver and work out the mud hiding in our rowels and scars. So close, we did look to the day we were made. Sure, we had rust patches and scratches scattered here and there, but if only he'd take us outside. Instead, we were hung on the wall, like some ornamental picture. The cowhand smiled. The wife squawked. She called us the ugliest thing she ever seen. How dare she? We were crafted in love, for the desert and wild caballos, meant for beauty, see, but also meant to tame snorty horses. The cowhand quickly wrapped us in a stained handkerchief and tucked us away with a promise. Someday, I will give you to my son, so you will sing again. For years we held on to that promise, sitting in the dark closet, reeking of mothballs. The vaquero who crafted us came to mind, though he'd be long gone by now. His wife, she had cooed over us and sang to us Spanish love songs. We recalled the gringo and the smell of alcohol and gunsmoke, the sweet melody of the cowhand's rope overhead and open space, but mostly we dreamt of the desert sun. We were lifted from our silence. The cowhand's son picked us up. Dust fluttered in the air when our rowels were rolled. Well, these are worthless, he muttered, running ivory creamy hands across our faded metal. We were shoved in a box with mildew-smelling books and tattered sweaters. Foreign hands lifted us and turned us over, hands too soft to have ever held a rope. Sticky fingers of children roll our rowels like toys. After sitting all day in the sun, being pushed out of the way and used as bookends, someone picked us up. Someone with calloused hands. His eyes were almost covered in a flat brim, with such care as if we were a famous piece of art. His tan, scarred lace hands turned us over. $20 for those, came the voice of the cowhand's son. The man holding us quickly handed over the cash. He carried us to a dusty old pickup, smelling sweetly of leather. And with a gentle wipe of his thumb, our tarnished silver reflected the wild look in his eyes. This was a man who understood our longing for desert rays, a man who lived for our songs, ringing true and pure. At last we would sing again, for over 100 years of tunes and tales we have harbored.
Do you call it a story or do you call it a poem?
It's a story and
It's
a
a
poem.
story and a
It can
poem.
be both.
Well, this book actually has a really neat. Well, why don't you just tell us about it?
So all the proceeds of this book go to a scholarship for girls who were homeschooled and grew up on a ranch and like to write. And then Sally Harper Bates, she's the one that put all the stories together and just contacted all these very amazing poets. There's several great women poets in here.
Could you name some of them? Do you have some in the back?
Yeah, so Sally Bates has some. Betty L. McCarthy. Kate.
Well, we got into a last names problem here.
Yeah.
Tana Noble, Dude Overton, California, Colorado, Idaho, Missouri, Nebraska, Nevada, New Mexico, Oklahoma, Oregon, Texas, and Washington, all authors from those states. And I just thought that was really, really cool that it went to, it's a book, they're all women poets, correct?
Yes.
So it's a book full of women poets that put together a scholarship for young ladies,
Yes.
young
Yeah.
rancher ladies, and that is a scholarship for schooling,
Yes. Yep. College.
Yeah, and I think it's just absolutely incredible. We're going to hear one more story from Natalie here, and what did you say it was called?
It's called Shoulda Calved in June.
I thought, we got to hear that one.
Yeah.
She has 3 in here, but we're just going to hear 2 today, so you'll have to buy the book to read her 3rd one. But it's calving season right now, and I can kind of attest to the situation where we should have probably, if we could be summer or fall calvers, it would just be a lot more fun.
I think it would.
But okay, we're going to hear that one for you, and it's on page
234.
234.
Shoulda calved in June. Don't worry, fresh tender nose, turned sickly bluish black, ice clinging to cherry hide, over the withers, the horse's neck stretched out for you. You aren't the first calf carried. As I step into the stirrup, the snow drift under the horse's hooves gives, and you tumble over black mane. Decorated with delicate snowflakes, I manage to catch you, at the expense of my own pain. Tooled leather design, twirls and twists of the leather flower impress upon the ice on my cheek. So sorry, but the snow isn't sorry, I mutter through frozen lips. Holding on to you as the dun mare lunges in the drift, slushy snow scraping her belly and filling her midnight, star-scattered mane. The collection of snowflakes she wears like a heavy winter coat. Your eyes roll at the scraping of the wind, flinging icicles pelting our ruby flesh. Don't worry, I can't say it'll be okay, for it's so white that sky is land and land is sky. But you mustn't worry. You just need to keep breathing. The mare, she'll find the barn warm and dry. She breathes the frozen air. Her lungs crystallize damp air. Snowflakes flutter from her nostrils. Don't worry, little red calf. I won't let you fall. And the dun's mare's hide will keep you warm. Pay no mind the ice-throwing wind. The blazing white. Just keep alive.
That one is definitely my favorite of the 2. So what's the 3rd one about?
It's about a connection to the prairie and how a lot of people think that it's really tame, but when a snowstorm comes, it's not tame anymore.
That's true. You're from Nebraska, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Central Nebraska.
Central Nebraska. And what are you going to do now when you graduate college? What's
I'm
next?
applying to some NRCS range jobs because I want to help ranchers and help the rangelands. But I'm definitely gonna try to go get some cows sometime.
The rancher at heart.
Yes.
Well, thank you for being on this episode, and I appreciate you reading some.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Just one more time, the name of the book and where we can get it.
Facing West, Volume 2, Voices of the Western Women, and I believe it's on Amazon.
It's on Amazon. All right. Well, thank you all for tuning into this week's Trailer Tales. If you know somebody that should be on this show, an artist, a musician, someone with great stories, or just someone that's incredibly talented, my email is in the description box. Let me know, and we will see you next time. Bye.